Hello everyone, it's Varus, and in this video I'm going to give you a full update on the weather for the US, Hurricane Ernesto and its impacts on Bermuda and Atlantic Canada, specifically Newfoundland and Labrador, and a look at the Eastern Pacific tropical activity as it is also sparking up and poses some threats to areas of land. So let's get right into it. So right now I do have the National Weather Service alerts pulled up, what's going on. So, in the Deep South, very notable heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. So, please stay safe if you're down there or have any family members down there, as heat is a very big problem, covering the whole state of Arkansas, most of Mississippi, northern areas of Louisiana, areas of Texas, the extreme western portions of Tennessee, Oklahoma, etc. So please be careful. And then heat advisories surround that. Now you do have not tropical storm watches, severe thunderstorm watches up in Oklahoma and Arkansas and areas of Missouri. So some severe weather is currently ongoing and expected to start up in these areas. So we'll go over that in a bit. In the west, you see some some red flag warnings regarding fires and flood watches up in the Pacific Northwest and flood watches down here, kind of in the desert Southwest with some rainfall, which we kind of do need in those areas. Dense fog advisories in spots like northern Minnesota, Nebraska, areas of New England, in the Northeast, such as Vermont, the whole state of Vermont, areas of New Hampshire, western and central Massachusetts, and the upstate of New York. Now, some of these dense fog advisories are actually coming off of fires over here in Canada, and it's been very hazy, and the haze has come off these Canadian fires and come into the Northeast, some into these areas, so partly that's kind of some areas why we're having these dense fog advisories. And even for the areas not having those advisories, overall just smoke and haze coming from those wildfires. Like over here, for example, in the Mid-Atlantic, it's being affected, but the most effect is over here in Northeast/New England, which is getting that main smoke feed. And then you also have those other areas that I mentioned. Now let's get into the severe aspect. So for those same areas with the severe thunderstorm watches, such as Arkansas, Oklahoma, areas of Missouri, and Kansas, is a slight risk. Tornado threat, not really that big for today. However, a wind threat and a hatch risk, so almost a 25% wind threat and a almost 25% hail threat in those areas. So wind and hail is definitely a pretty big concern to watch out for. Day 2, we have another slight risk, kind of moves east, and we actually have a slight risk over here in the Pacific Northwest. These two slight risks, actually 2% tornado for central Kentucky, 2% tornado risk, so definitely something we want to watch out for, some brief spin-ups. Wind threats are there for both slight areas, and a hail threat is also there. Lastly, the day 3, no exact details, but we have a wide marginal risk and a slight risk throughout the Carolinas, Georgia, and Alabama. Hail and wind could definitely be a threat here. We'll have to see how this evolves, but those are some possible threats, and then a low margin risk out in the west. Now getting into some tropical related activity. Here is our Hurricane Ernesto about to take an impact on Bermuda. Now our low is here. Let's get to the latest frame. Our low overall is kind of right in here, and it looks like right now it's actually kind of passing slightly to the east of it, and as good as that it does right now, it doesn't look like it's going to take a direct impact. However, that could definitely change with the track, but it's going to be very close, and even if it doesn't take a direct impact, it's still going to get into those inner walls. It's still going to get into that deeper convection. So Bermuda has to watch out for some very, very major impacts, especially with rain, flooding, any coastal surf, storm surge and obviously those gusty winds associated with this Category 2 hurricane. Not expected to become a major hurricane, but some gusts up to major hurricane status are likely, so please be careful for areas over there in Bermuda. Now, how it looks on IR, honestly, Ernesto is becoming more extratropical. Shear is hitting it from the northwest, and dry air continues to be a conflict for the southeastern or southwestern areas of the storm. However, it is nonetheless a hurricane and still firing off healthy convection as it moves to the north and east, where it will eventually tap into cooler waters and become extratropical. So, Bermuda, watch out, and then Atlantic Canada, another area we'll have to watch out for in the coming days. National Hurricane Center, here it is, 5 p.m. Any new updates? Only 7:24. Okay, so let's take a look at it right here. So as of 5 p.m. Friday, 100 mile per hour max sustained wind. So it is pretty strong Cat 2. It's going to start weakening as it approaches Bermuda. Per the NHC code, probably going to be, now the NHC code does have it kind of almost going right over Bermuda. It's kind of hard to see here. However, it does bring it, whether it brings it over or very close, it does bring those impacts, and especially with that hurricane wind field being bigger than the size of Bermuda itself. Bermuda will be expecting, at very least, hurricane impacts, if not some major hurricane impacts, as there is going to be higher wind gusts in this storm. Now, it is moving at northeast at 13 miles per hour, so not fast, but not too slow. Relatively slow, but not like at a crawl. So it is expected to speed up as it continues its trek and eventually heads eastward. Fun fact, see how these bubbles are white filled in and over here it's black filled in? When it's black, it's representative of a tropical system, and the white, it's extratropical, where it loses its tropical characteristics, especially as it gets north. Now, we did see a Nova Scotia possibly being in the threat. They're pretty much out of the clear, except still expect some rough seas along the southern coast. However, Labrador, Newfoundland, please watch out. Not only are you going to have rough seas, but some direct impacts from Ernesto, such as heavy rain and wind, is possible. So please be careful, especially on the southeast side of Newfoundland and Labrador. So there's your little track. Let's see what else. We can actually take a look at the wind speed probabilities. Bermuda obviously in the highest. But just mainly, so as you can see, it looks like, oh yeah, Ernesto is relatively big. Okay, I'll tell you that. It's very, very big, honestly. And so that's how winds are possibly still going to gust over there in areas of Nova Scotia. So still be prepared. But mainly for Labrador, for example, the highest I see on Labrador currently is about around 50% chance, and that'll only increase as the storm gets closer. So please be careful. If you do want to see the key messages, I'll read it to y'all. Ernesto expected to bring a prolonged period of strong winds, storm surge on Bermuda, that is beginning currently, so already inbound, and expected to continue through Saturday night. Hurricane warning is in effect. Preparations to protect life and property should be completed. Heavy rainfall with Ernesto is expected to impact Bermuda through Saturday and will likely result in considerable life-threatening flash flooding and especially low-lying areas on land. Now, please, if you are in Bermuda, the National Hurricane Center doesn't exactly issue everything on Bermuda, but what I'm trying to say is just stay tuned to your local news. You'll have the best information over there and any suggestions on any preparations you should take. And stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center, of course. Even though Ernesto is forecast to remain well offshore of the U.S. East Coast, the swells are going to be generated by the hurricane are going to affect the area through the weekend. Life-threatening surf and rip currents are likely and are also possible on the Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, Bermuda, and Atlantic Canada during the next few days. So, indirect impacts still likely for the east coast of the U.S. and other areas of land. Now getting into our Eastern Pacific, really do think some people should be definitely starting to talk about it as it is actually firing up again. Did have a little lull. Disturbance 1, 40% in the next 48 hours, 80% in the next 7 days. Does look like to not really be affecting any land from here, but of course you have these tiny little islands and areas to watch out for. I mean, I don't know why I circled this one, but just keep an eye out for any small little islands anywhere. But that's your first disturbance, your most likely one to develop. You also have disturbance 2, 50% in the next 7 days, 0 in the next 48 hours, as it hasn't formed a consolidated low yet, but it should form eventually in this zone and head out generally west, slightly north. And then let's move to the Central Pacific. We have an area right here. This has a 10% 48 hours, 40% the next 7 days, generally just moving almost due west, slightly north. Now, in my earlier videos, I was talking about how this could impact Hawaii. However, it has stayed weak, and therefore it has stayed more west, and hasn't really been causing any impacts. Now, rough seas are still likely, and maybe some other areas, but just some choppy waves are definitely possible. But given this isn't a true system, don't expect any major impacts. And then we do have another one behind that we could watch, just in case it decides to take this more northern route on this little area, and could affect the main island. Now that's still ways out. And then you do have that edge of that cone over there on the highest disturbance, disturbance 1. Now that does kind of, if it were to take the southern route, kind of does actually get kind of more north of these areas, and that's when we also have to watch out for. So no real threats to Hawaii, but if you are there, just watch out to see, stay tuned, and just keep an eye out for any storms eventually in the next week or so to form if they do. Now, let's take a look at some ensembles, see what they think about these storms. Now, with this first one, or the most one, that's the most west, they don't really like many ensembles don't really have that much support, maybe a little bit of strengthening, but overall, kind of just stays kind of separate. Now, you actually do kind of have almost two separate signals. You have one here and one here, so that'll be something interesting to watch, but generally, you can kind of consolidate it as one, and then you have the strongest signal with that 80% high code red wave behind it. Let's go out 144 hours, see if anything happens there. Now you do have one area right here. Some actually start bringing it north, and then over here you also have your other signal. So now you'd really just see two clusters. And then lastly, just go out to 180 hours, and this is what I mean. You do have some. There's your group. Consensus stays south, however, some bring it very close as a weak tropical storm, right over here, just south of the main island. And then eventually, these also, a couple of the members on the first system, kind of tries to bring it a little more south, closer to the main island, just for entertainment purposes, or just for curiosity for anyone wondering. Going the full 240 hours out, there you have a couple members getting close, and a couple members of the first disturbance also getting close. So overall, just keep an eye out, especially if you're on the main island of Hawaii. And that's about it. Honestly, that's Hawaii. Overall, actually, no threats to the western U.S. and Mexico, western coast of Mexico. So there's your forecast. Try to give you everything in a power-packed short little video. Timestamps will be down below. Please subscribe. I'm going to keep pumping out videos every day. And stay tuned for this weekend, as I should have a fall and winter outlook out sometime, maybe Saturday, tomorrow, or Sunday. I'll keep you guys updated on that. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.